Well, since we're talking about the hot seat, let's go ahead and move on to it. There was an article put out. Oh, geez, why am I blanking on who the article was by? Sportskita. Kita? Yeah. At sportskita.com, where they said there are 3 Big Ten coaches entering the season on the hot seat. Those 3 Big Ten coaches are Mike Woodson, who is at the top of the Big Ten, a lot of power rankings, including John's. Steve Pikiell, who has the 2-star freshman coming in, and then obviously Kevin Willard, who has been doing well in recruiting, but he's never really been able to translate those recruiting wins into season wins, and the fans are obviously frustrated with that. Kent, do you think all 3 of these guys are indeed on the hot seat?
No, I don't think all 3 of them are. I think that I'll start with Willard. Yes, obviously. No one likes him, so yeah, he's on the hot seat. I think that the other 2, though, when you're considering hot seats, you're looking at the fans' pressure and then not meeting expectations, right? So when I look at Pikiell, I actually think there is, to me, and might just be my small little like corner of the internet that I have, but to me, there's no fan pressure from Pikiell. They love him at Rutgers. So that's not an issue. To me, it'll be, he would have to have an atrocious season, like not make the tournament, finish like lower than like 8th in the conference, I would say, and doing it with, and that would be with no injuries to the 2 main guys that he has, or Jeremiah Williams, because with those 3 guys, I don't foresee that happening at all. Like if they miss the tournament, I would be shocked. So I don't think that Pikiell's on the hot seat because I don't think he's going to, I don't think the expectations are particularly high at Rutgers to begin with, but even this year with those guys, even if they make the tournament and win a couple games, they'll be fine. And he's not going to get fired. And I also think the fans love him. The third one is the most interesting, though. Like Woodson, like to me, he's got to get past the first weekend this year or he's going to get fired. I think it really boils it down to that. Like missing the tournament for sure. I think he has to go. I think the fan pressure would be too much. I think that that's an expectation that, you know, being a team that most people are picking top 3 in this conference, to not make the tournament would be a huge miss for Woodson. So that he would not be living up to expectations. The fans would be super pissed and they would have to get rid of him. And even if he makes the tournament, if he goes out in the first weekend, I think that that's a disappointing season for Indiana. So for him, I would say he has to get past the first weekend and then he's on the hot seat.
Yeah,
or not on the hot
seat.
16. However you want to look at it.
Yeah, no, I agree. I have a hard time with Pikiell because I do have my criticisms of Pikiell as well. And he's only won 20 games once at Rutgers, and that was the year they didn't even make the tournament. They won 11-9 in the conference in 2019, 2020, and they were 20-11, and they didn't make the tournament. Now they made the tournament the next 2 years. Well, I don't know if you guys count it, but they were in the first 4 2 years later. Do you guys count that as making the tournament?
No, I don't.
Yeah, if you're in a playing game, you have to win the playing game to be counted being in the tournament.
That's why I'm so adamant about when people post about Michigan State's streak, because Michigan State made a play-in game against this. I can't remember the team, but I do remember Mick Cronin was coaching, and they beat Michigan State in the play-in game, and then went on to go to the national championship. That's what Mick Cronin did, by the way. But Michigan State didn't get into the tournament in my mind. That's a play-in game.
Yeah, I mean, the only reason they got in I don't know. I guess they could have put them in possibly because it would have been the 11 seed, so they could have possibly put them in. I don't know, but yeah, no, I think you have one questionable NCAA berth, and then you have one NCAA berth altogether, and he kind of saved it here with getting Ace and Bailey and Dylan Harper, but I don't know, like to me, it doesn't seem like he's on the hot seat with Rutgers fans, but if he has another like 14-17, 15-19 season where he's like around 500, doesn't make the tournament, I could definitely see Rutgers fans getting really upset on him. But I also feel like that's when he gets on the hot seat. I don't think he gets fired if that happens. I feel like that's when he's like on the hot seat. Do you agree, Russ?
Yeah, is Rutgers like East Coast Iowa?
That's
because it feels like, with Ferentz and
Iowa has a little bit more success.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. They're like light, not as successful Iowa. Like it, their head coaches kind of are who we thought they were. Schiano isn't a world beater. Pikiell isn't like having some crazy world-beating season. But it seems like the fans don't want him gone. Like they just have some kind of lifetime contract where, they could have a bad season, but they ain't going nowhere. Like I don't. It just seems like they're almost an Iowa version out there in New Jersey. But yeah, I agree. I agree with Kent. I don't think he's necessarily on the hot seat unless he'd have to have it, all those things that you said, and then Ace Bailey and Dylan Harper both leave for the NBA. Like, I don't know if you could get fired after players transfer to play for the NBA, but like that's where I could see if his roster falls apart on top of all that, he'd be in trouble.
Those guys are for sure leaving for the NBA next year, by the way.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So like, I think that could be a nail in the coffin for him possibly. But again, like I said, kind of like Iowa, they might just keep him around. Woodson, for some reason, IU, I'm stuck on Iowa now. IU fans have some kind of love affair with Mike Woodson because he played for Bob Knight. So, and IU fans are the best, and JR, you should know this, being local to Southern Indiana, they're the best at rewriting a narrative and rewriting a storyline. Because going into last year, Xavier Johnson was better than Braden Smith. Kalel Ware was going to be a Big Ten Player of the Year candidate. And then they fell flat on their face. And they all of a sudden rewrote the narrative and go, oh, well, they didn't have guard play. And now he's got a good class coming in. So I don't know that Woodson goes anywhere. But for sure, Willard is on the hot seat. 100%.
Well, they weren't that far off with Ware. I'll give him credit. Ware, he was second team All Big Ten, third team? I mean, he was really good, and he just didn't have guards. So that was the problem. Xavier Johnson was nowhere what people expected him to be, which I don't know why you ever expected anything out of Xavier Johnson. He literally never gave you anything. That was Mike Woodson's biggest blunder of his career, is he put his faith in Xavier Johnson. You deserve to be screwed over if you put your faith in Xavier Johnson. I don't know why anybody in their right mind would do that. But I don't know. Like when I talk to my family that's IU fans, like they're frustrated with Mike Woodson for sure, with like some of the recruiting and stuff like that. But after they lost out on what's his name, the recruit they lost, Nielsen or something like that, I forget. But they lost out on that recruit, and then he comes back and brings in Bryson Tucker instead. So the thought there is like, oh, well, he can recruit. They brought in Mackenzie Mbako the year before, so their thought is like, oh, he can recruit. He just has to put this together on the court, which, like, I think Woodson can put it together on the court. I just think last year, like, Xavier Johnson, that was such a stupid move. And then your backup plan for Xavier Johnson, your backup plan was Gabe Cupps. What in the world are you doing? Your backup plan was Gabe Cupps. That was not a good backup plan at all. So, I mean, I don't know. Like, I guess Gabe Cupps could have been better, but he wasn't ready for it. So I see why people are kind of looking at, Mike Woodson is maybe on the hot seat a little bit, but at the same time, it's like, I think that's mostly because if he doesn't do well this year, they're going to be really unhappy with him. Agree or disagree, Ken?
Yeah, I agree. And by the way, my dog just farted in the background, so that was not me if it came across the microphone at all. I would admit I take full responsibility for all my flatulence. But yeah, I agree with you. Like if they have a subpar season, like I think that any fans that, like, even the fans that Russ is talking about right now, like I think they'll turn on him real quick if they have a subpar season. Yeah.
I think that was he farted when I was yelling about Gabe Cupps. So I think my yelling about Gabe was,
it was loud though. So I was like, man, if that came across the mic, everyone's gonna think I farted.
That was just you
up there. That's why he's a fan.
That was just you making the noise about what's going to happen to Mike Woodson this season.
Yeah, it's possible. I don't think that's going to happen. I think that they're going to be good enough to make a second weekend, and that's all he needs to do. And then he gets to keep coaching.
I think he'll have a good season. I don't know about the tournament. We'll see in the tournament what he'll do there. But anyway, all right, last question. Would you guys add anybody to the hot seat? Russ, we'll start with you. Would you add anybody to the hot? I mean, obviously, we're probably not going to go super into buyouts here. I don't know if you guys did that much research. I did not. But Russ, is there anybody that should be added to the hot seat?
Yeah, and I mean, I'm going to go traditional here, but I think Izzo. I know he's the.
They're not going to fire Izzo though.
He should be. If you're asking,
it might be like an encouraged, hey, please move on, but they're not going to fire him.
Oh yeah, it would definitely for sure go down as like they agreed to mutually part ways.
Okay, yeah,
so he wouldn't get officially fired. But like, as much as he struggled and should have missed the tournament last year, and he's had the year, like you said recently, Kent, that he didn't really make the tournament. If they don't make the tournament or they're like a 10 seed this year or something, like I think fans are going to go, look, the game's passed you up. We need somebody else.
Kent, who do you got?
Okay, well, I'll start with Izzo, but I wrote down a different type of response for Izzo. I said that he'll put himself on the hot seat. I think that if he has a bad year, he's getting. I mean, I feel like I've been saying this for a couple of years now, but he's reaching the age where he can't stack up bad years and still think that he's him personally has to assess and say, I can't be the right guy to do this anymore. Like somebody else should take over this program that I love so much. I think he would fire himself if he has a bad year. That's how much I think.
Draymond Green. Draymond Green. Put him
I saw that tweet today. Yeah, that'd be great. I'm putting Greg Gard on the hot seat 100%. I think that again, this might just be my little carved out corner of the internet, but I think that the fans are kind of like, hey, you got to do something here, man. Like we're expecting more from Wisconsin. And, I think he would be on the hot seat.
The hardest part is they just gave him that. Didn't they just give him an extension?
Yeah, that doesn't matter.
Which was stupid. I mean, this to me, Greg Gard is what Chris Holtmann was 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah.
The AD gave him an extension. It was stupid. What in the world are you thinking? The fans want him gone, and all the fans are just gonna have to deal with him for the next 2 or 3 years until finally he royally screws up enough that the AD is like, oh, I'm retiring and I'm gonna, get rid of this coach on the way out, so that way the next AD doesn't have to do it. Which turns out to probably be the right decision, because at the end of the day, you had a team that was talented enough to beat the teams of, sorry, Russ, but to beat Purdue and to beat Michigan State. You just didn't have a coach that was there that was good enough to, get that out of them. So, but Jake Diebler did get it out of him. We'll see if he can continue that magic on. I got another name. This is my final name, I think.
I got one too, but you can go first though.
Okay.
I have one more.
We'll see if it's the same one.
Yeah.
Fran McCaffrey.
Yep. 100%.
I think he needs to go.
He hasn't been to the Sweet 16 since before Y2K happened. Can you guys believe that?
But this is the way Iowa operates. Iowa just
I'm shocked that I was
everybody
in the 16 period, but yeah.
Well, yeah. Iowa just lets everybody stick around until they decide to go, which is
I don't get
so
it.
stupid. I don't get it either. Like, how can you call yourself a Big Ten team with all the money and you're like, oh, Fran, don't worry, just stick around until you're ready to go. Like, it's a mistake.
I think the problem I have with it, and I love Iowa. I love Iowa fans.
I do
Jeffrey
too. That's why I want
is one of my favorite.
Well.
Like Jeffrey the Greek's podcast is like one of my favorite. Eyes on Big Ten. He's a big Iowa fan. I love his show. He's a great guy. So let me get that out of the way. I like Iowa people. The problem I have with it, though, with these coaches, both of them in football and basketball, is that they brag about it. They say, like, we've had these coaches for so long. Like, we have longevity. Like, I'm so glad that we have some stability in our coaching. Why would you be glad that your team hasn't won an NCAA tournament in God knows when, haven't been to the Sweet 16 since 1999, never, like haven't been to a Final Four since I've been alive? Like, you've had some great players. You've had some first-round draft picks. You've had the Murray twins. You've had Tony Perkins. You've had all McCaffrey's kids come through there. You guys you can't win 2 games in the tournament? Give me a break. Like, this, it's insane. Like, you can't brag about your coach and then have that kind of resume. Like, I'm sorry.
They've had Luka Garza, the Murray twins, and they have
Garza.
They've had more. They have had more lottery picks than they've had NCAA tournament wins. Sorry, Russ. Go ahead.
No, you're good. I was saying, is he a victim of his own success? Because like we talked about, and I said Rutgers just like Iowa East. Pikiell's been there for 8 years, 9 years, and he's never made the Sweet 16. His best finish in the Big Ten is 4th. But I mean, people are acting like he's the greatest thing since sliced bread out there. That we've had coaching stability and blah 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 and all the things you just said. But I was actually shown, hey, we can get talent here. We can have some good success during the regular season. We just can't get the tournament success. So maybe that's why he's on the hot seat, just because he's actually had success, and he's had the talent, he's underperformed.
Looking back at Iowa's history, it actually does kind of make some sense, though. They haven't got out of the second round since the 90s. Okay, regional semifinals in 98, 99. And third round under Fran, 14-15. They've gotten since 1990, they have gotten out of the second round twice. So, I mean, if you just get used to that, like, then it just becomes okay. And you're like, thank goodness we got out of the third round or out of the second round. This coach did it. He can stick around forever. Like, and I'm probably giving him a little bit too much. He came in 2010, so it's not like he's like Kirk Ferentz where he's been there 20 plus years, but still, like, he's been around for a while. So I don't know. They're not going to, it's kind of like the same thing with Izzo. They're not going to fire Fran, but they might encourage him to move on. And I don't know. I just feel like it's bad news when your son transfers and when your son doesn't want to come play for you. Like, I don't know. Maybe there could be some family dynamic stuff there. I don't know. I don't know the ins and outs of it, but to me, it just looks bad.
I could tell you.
I hope he does stay though, because he's great television.
I was just saying. See, so Izzo will be a conversation, and they'll agree to part ways. Fran, they're gonna like change the locks, send him a text message, move the basketball facilities, and not because you're not facing that man face to face and telling him he's fired. You've seen how he acts on the sideline. Like, they're 100% ghosting him if he loses his job.
He's just going to stare at you until you back down.
I'm not leaving. I'm not leaving.
I'm not leaving. Let's go play that GIF. Yeah.
He goes in the locker room, and then the AD like follows him in. He's like, guys, he actually is leaving.
He doesn't have a choice. Oh, man. All right. Yeah, I think that's it. I don't think there's anybody else that could be on the hot seat. Mike Rhodes might get there next year.
Ben Johnson will be there next year if he has another bad year.
Ben Johnson will be there next year, unfortunately. I like Ben Johnson, though.
I do too. I love him.
Chris Collins isn't doing it. Dusty May, Jake Diebler aren't close anytime soon. Dana Altman, if he gets the... I mean, if Mick Cronin finishes 10th in the Big Ten, yeah, I could see him getting on the hot seat, like you said, Russ, but I don't see him finishing 10th.
Let's make this bet, man. I want to know what you were thinking for this bet.